Yeah, y'all gonna stop coming in my live talking about this Victor dude, bro. We hooping this year. Y'all gonna see.
Alright, team. Now, recently I've been seeing a lot of negativity coming from Spurs fans on X. So today, I kind of want to bring y'all this video to shed some positivity on the Spurs and the channel. Now, I understand I have been critical of the Spurs, but it gets to a point where it just becomes toxic. Like, there are people on Twitter straight up just talking crazy about the Spurs and Spurs players. Jeremy Sohan had a tweet earlier, and there was some kind of nasty replies under there. Now, I'm not going to act like a saint because I have crashed out a couple times on this channel and on Mitch Johnson, but there are people just straight up being disrespectful and just talking crazy. Now, I want to bring y'all this video to show y'all that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Trust me, it could be way worse. You could be a team like the Phoenix Suns. Their whole locker room hates each other. Kevin Durant knows he's getting traded in the offseason. Like, this is not the worst spot to be in. I understand being frustrated, but the constant complaining that I've seen has just been a little out of hand. So with that being said, let's talk about some things to look forward to. Starting off with this tweet by Spurs Spotlight. Y'all go ahead and give him a follow. Just a reminder, Spurs acquired Fox for almost nothing. That's my front office. Shout out. As a matter of fact, I'm going to drop a like on that. Might even retweet it later. Who knows? But y'all go ahead and give him a follow. But this is absolutely right. I know people talk about the Spurs' competency and like their willingness to compete. And I think this move right here shows that the Spurs are not trying to do anything other than surround Wemby with the best possible pieces to win and ultimately win a championship. Now, this trade right here, I know some have forgot because of the way they've been talking about the Spurs. This trade right here, like look at what they got De'Aaron Fox for. And I know we've gone over this before, but this is an insane trade. You gave up Trey Jones, Zach Collins, the 25 Bulls pick, the Spurs 27 pick, and Minnesota 2031, along with that Charlotte pick. That's not really a first round pick. They made a trade with the Kings, and they didn't give them their own first round pick back. Do you know the next level GMing or the next level front office work that goes on behind this to where the Spurs fleece the Bulls? They've been fleecing the Bulls, and then they also fleece the Kings. Now I get the Kings got a good return with Zach Collins. I mean Zach LaVine, not Zach Collins. But coming from the Spurs capital, you really didn't have to give up much. Like 2-3 first round picks or whatever. One of them really isn't even a first round pick. Overall, this move right here, in my opinion, makes the season a success. You acquired a star point guard alongside Wemby, which this is what Spurs fans wanted in the first place to show that they want to win, and the Spurs go out and do that without giving up really anything. They keep most of their capital. So this move right here, in my opinion, makes the season a W. Even though they aren't going to the playoffs, nothing. This right here signals to me that the Spurs want to win and that they are still competent. On top of all the other moves that they made, including getting DeJounte Murray for 3 first-round picks, which we're not even going to go over today. These are just a couple of things that I want to shed some light on. And this isn't even telling you the whole story of how good the Spurs front office really is. So you have De'Aaron Fox, a star point guard alongside Wemby, but you also have Stephon Castle, the number 4 pick from this past draft, who is currently at number 1 in the rookie ladder. He's on his way to winning Rookie of the Year, and this would be a back-to-back Rookie of the Year combo for the San Antonio Spurs, which hasn't been done since, I believe, Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins or something like that. But this goes to show the Spurs still got it when it comes to drafting. In my opinion, Stephon Castle has been the best rookie this season, and it hasn't been that close other than Jared McCain, which he got injured, unfortunately. But there are some people who question the Spurs drafting and development. Now, some people might say the Spurs development isn't what it once was. And although that may be the case, I'm not too sure. We're just going to have to see with time. I still think that it is up there. It's got to be at least top 10 in the league today. So I know you have lost a shooting coach like Chip England, the shot doctor, and you also have Popovich going out. So the Spurs development looks a little shaky, but I have some belief. I have some faith in the Spurs front office because they do have a culture and they do have a program where people can still come in and be impactful. And some may point to the draft picks of Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley, but honestly, they aren't terrible players. There have been way worse misses in the league compared to Blake Wesley and Malachi Branham. They are still serviceable players who I think can have a spot in this league, but I'm just not sure that the team is built to have those two players on the team right now. I don't know if they fit entirely in the Wemby era, but don't get it twisted. They are still NBA players who can hoop. You just need to be in the right system. As well as when they made those picks, they weren't really going for fit because they didn't have Wemby. You didn't know who the number one guy was going to be, so you didn't have a system built in. You were just taking the best players available. But now that you have Wemby, you have a system, you have Fox, you have a whole bunch of pieces that are being put together. The Spurs drafting is only going to get better because they know the system that they have to fit, and they're going to tailor their draft picks to fit that system. So some who question the Spurs drafting, I'll say, don't worry about it. It's going to be good, and you see that with the number 4 overall pick, Stephon Castle. And if all that wasn't enough, having Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Stephon Castle, Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, a solid team, which is going to get better with the draft lottery, the draft overall. For the Spurs to get the top 4 pick, it took me 2 spins. I don't know how that will correlate to the actual draft lottery, but they have a 20% chance to get a top 4 pick on top of Atlanta's pick, which has an 8% chance to be top 4. So overall, they have a 28% chance to get a top 4 pick and around a 6% chance to get the number 1 overall pick, which is Cooper Flag. Now, just to have a chance at the number 1 overall pick is something. You saw the Atlanta Hawks jump up last year where they didn't have much of a chance at all. So anything is possible, but just to have 2 lottery picks in back-to-back years. Last season, they had the number 4 and number 8 overall pick, which they traded the number 8 overall pick for 2 first-rounders. Fast forward to this season, another 2 lottery picks. Like, what are we talking about? This Spurs front office is legit, and they have not lost a step. Now, I think they're not perfect. Of course, they still have some improvements, as everyone does. You know, no front office is perfect. They are going to have some misses here and there. But I think the Spurs earned the right to buy themselves a little bit of time, if you know what I'm saying. They have made right move after right move, so us Spurs fans gotta have a little bit of faith in the Spurs front office. Now, I know I'm not just talking to y'all, I'm also talking to myself because I can be a little impatient at times. You know, I watch the games and I'm like, man, what are we doing? Mitch Johnson, what are you doing? But I have recognized that, and I have made it a point to be a little bit more patient, because the Spurs, if you give them a little bit of time, more likely than not, they are gonna make the right move and they are going to put themselves in the right position to win. If you look at the scope of this rebuild at a whole, you know, from trading DeJounte Murray for the 3 first-round picks when the rebuild really began, but you look at the turnaround. The next season, they get their number 1 guy. They get Wemby, who is the greatest prospect of all time, in my opinion. I might be a little biased because I'm a Spurs fan. The season after that, they signed Chris Paul, who was a great acquisition, and I know some people might say, oh, get rid of him because of the recency bias, and you don't like him starting alongside Fox. I don't like it either, but I think he can come back next season and be the backup point guard. On top of that, they trade for De'Aaron Fox, who is a top 20 player in the league, and you pair up Wemby alongside of Fox. There have been some unfortunate situations with Pop and Wemby going out for the season, and those are things you can't control. But you look at the moves that they made in such a short amount of time, on top of piling up all the assets and not just getting rid of them in an instant to trade for De'Aaron Fox, drafting Stephon Castle, having 4 lottery picks in 2 years, give the Spurs a little bit of time. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Just shed a little bit of positivity, giving the Spurs front office a little bit of credit, giving them their flowers, because I think next season is going to be a really good season for the Spurs. They will be in the playoffs. I can't tell you if they're going to make a deep run or not, because we're going to have to see how the season goes and how all the meshing and stuff goes, depending on the draft picks we get. But I can guarantee that the Spurs will be in the playoffs next season, and it's going to be a very exciting season. So although this season might be over, you scrap it, you tank a little bit, give it a little bit of time, and look in the future a little bit. With that being said, man, y'all be sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to Spurs Spotlight if y'all haven't already. If y'all haven't, go ahead and hit that button. With that being said, it's me and boy Chris, and I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.